of compulsive, obsessive gambling. And that's become a major problem in our country. A major contributor to actually the number of
gambling.
Yes, gambling
in casino.
Yes, gambling in casino, and also, originally this gambling started by people buying products and winning and scratching and winning, and that has a way of acting on our pleasure centers in the brain. So that can become a serious addiction. The high of winning, the high of betting and losing is the low side of it. So gambling has become a major problem in our country, and very correlated with mental health issues.
Really?
Yes.
How are people getting into addiction to gambling, into betting, like you're saying?
Yeah. Since circumstances in this country are such that there is always some need for extra money.
Yes.
Most people, the costs of living and the cost and how much they earn, for a majority of the people, they always are in need. I'm in that category also of people who do with extra money. So when it is made to look like just spending 100 bob could win you 17 million shillings or 170, it's very tempting for anyone just to think about it. So for most average people, we think 100 bob, okay, let me just put that one. And that 100 bob might not mean anything. The bigger part is when they win the first win. You win like 3,000 or you win another 5,000.
You invested 100.
Yes.
You got 3,000.
You got a dividend of 3,000.
Yes. That has a very huge impact on people continuing because of the pleasure of winning.
What demographic are you seeing getting more and more addicted into this gambling? Is it young? Is it male? Is it female? Is it urban? Is it rural?
Yes, interesting. And I would like to read a little bit more about it, but I've heard even women, older women, beginning to show shows, trying to bet, because they have seen. And these guys also are always advertising it, if you remember.
Yep.
They advertise it in a way that anyone looks like they can win, because it's in the numbers.
So there's testimonials.
Yes.
I mean, I did it, and here is my check.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And have you noticed that majority of the ones who are displayed that they have won a certain segment of a population that is being targeted?
There's a certain social demographic.
Yes. And if you imagine the numbers, the maths, if you work, if all these Kenyans were to give you a shilling every day, that's like 50 million shillings every day. Daily. That's good money. So if you target the people who are vulnerable, even predatory lending has become almost like that now. That's another major area of debt. In fact, there's a friend of mine who has developed a program called Debt Anonymous. There are people who just like borrowing money and they are not going to pay. They are always in
That's
debt.
also an addiction.
That is also an addiction. By the way, 12-step programs have 762 forms of addictions and support systems. Very interesting concepts. You hear some people who have issues around clutter and cluttering.
Yes.
Yeah, some people who are hoarders. They hoard stuff. They never let stuff go. It's a form of addiction, of holding back. And it also tells a lot about the state of mind of people.
Okay.
So depending on which addictions can manifest themselves. When it is negative, it's when because we are creatures of habit.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this seat you put here for a long time. If you just change it a little bit, you will be uncomfortable. And so we'll do. If you leave, you just go to any meeting space.
Yes.
And after people have had the morning meeting, and then they go for a break, and they come back, they almost own a certain space.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you moved around, you get disoriented.
Yeah, you get disoriented.
Totally.
Yeah.
So we are creatures of habit.
Yeah.
So what habits are we forming? So that's also now our recovery process. What are we forming? What habits are we forming? Are they good for us? Are they negative for us?
For folks who then become addicted to whatever area that we're talking about here, from alcohol and drugs to gambling to sex, whatever it may be, is there a latent mental health issue that this action of drinking or taking drugs or performing sexual acts in whatever way that then brings out the mental health issue? Or are we saying that it's not necessarily that there be a mental health issue that leads towards this addiction? Is there an underlying experience? Is there something? Have we been able to see that there's something that even getting through the addiction, somebody will be able to point back to and say, actually, yeah, I have a problem here, and that is what is making me do this? Of course, this comes in the recovery process, but are we able to link directly mental health issues to the addiction problem that we are seeing? And let's just take Kenya for now before we even go to the world. Is there a correlation between the two?
Siamese twins, actually. They're intertwined at the hip. I mean, it's one and the same. Addiction is actually a mental health issue, if you really think about it. Yeah? It's a mental health issue. It's a compulsion to behave. And that's all, it's mental.
So it's a manifestation of the mental health issue.
Yes. So the variants are what we now as therapists or people who are trying to figure out the problem and where it emanates from and what program you're going to individualize to help develop. We go through what you're just talking about. Yeah? Go through somebody's childhood to figure out any traumatic experiences. Which born were they? Some people just being firstborn, what that means in our country. We have to localize it.
Yeah.
Some people some girls especially not having a father figure and not even necessarily being abused. Because the structures have changed of our families now. Yeah, they have really changed. Some people, these things affect them. And maybe the first boyfriend they meet is an abusive one, just like the father abused the mother. There is always, especially among the younger people, there's always an underlying mental health issue. And when people say mental health issue, they probably think of ni mwenda wazimu or sijui schizophrenia. No, variants. Mental health is varying. And it's mental health and there's mental illness. So a lot of times people confuse mental illness with mental health. Mental health is common among all of us. And sometimes you can develop an issue. Sometimes it could be anxiety issue. High achieving families, you find somebody's left behind. You have your brothers, like me, for example. A lot of times it's just good to go back to my own addiction and look at what were the causes. When I got into rehab, if you try to identify and link my childhood with why I had a problem with heroin, I would have told you, nothing. I made the wrong choices. I'm a man. I take responsibility for my actions. It was just about me. Yes. I will stop this thing. This problem is a drug. But it wasn't. If you look at heroin is a painkiller. By the way, we were just observing. I had a group of about 65 people Her Excellency doctors had given me at the coast. I was managing heroin addicts. And if you look, the patterns are almost the same. Serious emotional pain. And heroin is a painkiller. Yeah? And by the way, we begin to see a serious correlation between our childhood, traumatic events, our childhood, some things that we are not even responsible for, plus our own inherited mental health issues. Being addressed by the substance that we fell for.
So there's always a correlation between many things.
A lot of shy people, very reserved people in their childhood.
So on the other end,
alcohol played a big part in breaking the shyness. I've had you interview people here who say that's the first time they were able to date, able to dance because they had two left feet. Alcohol opened them up in that way.
They had confidence.
So then it would be difficult to find somebody who is an addict at one level that does not have an issue with a mental health issue. Is that what we're saying? It would be difficult to find somebody who just is in addiction okay, let's just take alcohol as an example. It would be difficult to find somebody who is an addict of alcohol who does not have a mental health issue at some level. Are we saying that?
No, actually, there are some people who have pretty much, apart from alcohol, they are very okay with. It's just their reaction, the brain chemistry with alcohol. So alcohol is a mental health.
Is the thing now. So there's no
side reaction with
yes.
You put whatever chemical alcohol is. I'm not also very good in chemistry, but it's a chemical.
Yes.
There's some math there that can be added, chemistry. And you add their brain chemistry, there is even the difference in terms of affinity. Therefore, some people, affinity is a problem. Like they want this all the time, despite it not being good for their health. Their system is groping for that. Like for some people now, like me myself, now I've quit using any drugs for more than 21 years. No alcohol, not even a sip. But carbohydrates, I find myself eating a lot of chapati, and you can see bread, carbohydrates, and they're very almost addictive. Yeah.
Just thinking about
chapati
right now. So yes, that's for some of us. We have that like affinity to certain things which are not necessarily good for our health. Good for our health. It's really broad.
It's broad. Yeah, have you come across people who are addicted to taking other people's things? Kleptomaniacs.
Oh, yes.
Is that an addiction?
Yes. It's and compulsive, remember?
It's compulsive.
And obsessive.
You just see something and
it's
you're
negative.
Like, you don't know what you need it for.
You don't.
But you just take it. Okay, how about lying?
Yes?
Are there people who are compulsive liars and don't take it beyond this? We're staying within the confines of this conversation.
Yes, psychopathic liars. Compulsive.
Is that an addiction?
Well, I don't know.
Telling a lie.
Pathological lie.
If it goes that, like they are obsessing about it, they're compulsive about lying for no reason sometimes. They really don't need to lie. Yeah? Now that is a psycho. Those are the other disorders are called psychopathic disorders.
Okay.
That goes also with personality disorders.
Okay.
But they are like that.
Does Kenya address addiction well?
No, I don't think so. We have taken too long to do what needs to be done. I hear that SHA actually just met a very good man called Harry Kimtai, the PS, just recently, and I can see that they're trying to include almost all rehabilitation centers within the new framework, which is a very good step forward. This is like 20 years behind schedule. Yeah? And the amount of money that they have put in place is going to be very difficult for and then also putting in place and paying is a whole different ball game altogether. So it is not. I'm not sure how that is going to work out, because if you calculate the number of people who have an alcohol drug problem, and then the number of spaces in treatment centers, and then the people who really need it, and the amount of money that they have allocated, still, in my opinion, not going to be sufficient. There are some other funds that have been set aside that have never really been activated, like the Rehabilitation Fund of Narcotics and Psychotropic Drugs Act of 1994. Since 1994, it's within
There's
the
a law that created a fund.
A fund, yes. Through prescription. Now prescriptions and heroin substances, all these banned substances, like cocaine, heroin. The funds, when Nakina Kasha or other people, drug dealers have been arrested, this money is supposed to go into a fund that helps
with rehabilitation.
Drug addicts with rehabilitation. It's a law, but it has never been activated. Where that money goes from 1994 to now is as good a guess as anyone's, because there's a lot of funding, even international funding, against narcotics. That fund should have been activated by now. Our president had promised in his manifesto to activate the rehabilitation fund. He has not done it yet. That is one fund. There's another fund in the Alcohol Drinks Control Act. All these county governments, like in Nairobi, Sakaja, and his previous governments, now since 2005, they have their own law, Nairobi Liquor Licensing Act, which has 15% of all bar licenses in Nairobi. And Nairobi has
many bars. 15% of
supposed to go into
all licenses.
Yes. 15% all those years.
Whenever an institution that is selling alcohol gets a license, applies for a license from the liquor licensing, 15% of that fee
is directly supposed to go to rehabilitation of addicts.
Wow.
There is another 85% for the county and for the officials running. When we calculate this kind of money, because we have, and we see that this money is just being diverted, diverted for other government use.
So currently, where does that money go?
Where does it go?
Well, they use it. Their finance minister just turn it around for something else. That's a question. The next time he's here, you should ask him. 15% for the last 10, 15 years. Where has it gone?
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, but people get jobs. There's a board. There's always somebody to get the money and use the money for some reason. For some, there's no direct link between what the money is supposed to do, and it's not just Nairobi County. All counties have that law now passed. Nyeri passed it the other day. That's Alcohol Drinks Control Act. That's really good money for them to use to get around the development of rehabilitation centers and supporting existing treatment centers. Now, another money is a tobacco fund. It's really good money that can be used for rehabilitation. The law also states that some of that money should be used for that. That money just disappears, and it has been around for a while.
Okay.
So if you collate and bring together these resources, the Rehabilitation Fund, the Narcotics, Psychotropic Drugs, the Alcohol Drinks Control Act, the Tobacco Fund, SHA, and the new plans to have about 68,000 per rehab center per year per client, that can make an impact on the close to 500,000 people who really need rehabilitation. And it can also make even a bigger impact with prevention programs and interventions that are in between this pendulum that we talked about.
Who deals with rehabilitation in this country? Which department? So we're hearing Ministry of Health.
Yes.
NACADA is under Interior, isn't it?
Yes.
The Office of the Deputy President currently has been handling these matters.
Yes.
So there's so much, anybody there's so many county governments are all dealing with addiction and rehabilitation.
Yes.
Is there a need to centralize all this to say that there shall be one focal point to address addiction in this country?
A committee would be good that coordinates, and NACADA should be the coordinating agency. Originally, that's what it was meant to do. But now it has kind of not done that coordination very well. They can empower the counties, inform, educate the counties, have the experts that are needed to empower the counties to implement the health component of it. There is the prevention component that needs to be done by the education ministry. So you need to empower teachers or have a group of people who can really help synchronize our education system with good attitudes and education about addictions. That is a prevention program. That is from way down all the way to, and I think something is being done there, but we need better. In fact, I noticed there was a professor who came here from Israel, and you talked to him, and he was a very informed person. Yes. Human behavior among school-going children is a scientific research and a process through which you can monitor children's behavior and monitor the way you monitor mathematics as they grow up, the way you monitor English as they grow up. You monitor their behavior. Monitor does not say you tell them how to behave. You're just watching what is it going on with this kid. You're watching their mood. There's a criteria that teachers can be taught. And this over time can be a very helpful guide in developing programs. Can also tell you what behaviors lead to what type of people. eventually, if you follow longitudinally. Yeah? So having that...
klepto.
Do we?
Yeah, but one of the biggest problems we have in our country, and this I don't know if I'm the only one who keeps saying, is our allocation of human resources, perhaps one of the worst thing we do. The wrong people doing the wrong jobs. Have people who have no clue what they are doing. They're learning on the job. While we have experts, who could really help on the job. And just imagine, as I mentioned earlier, this your show is a very good place to investigate and read and learn on how this country can be helped. If you really took time to look at the last, how many years has this show been for? You can pick a lot on what needs to be done.
So are we looking at severe levels of addiction in Kenya? Are we looking at severe levels across the board that really then do need a lot more attention than is currently being applied?
Oh, yes. And this is an ending. Yeah? And you mentioned something like, if anything, if you look at the maths of addictions and how much it contributes to the economy, when we do nothing about addictions, what I hear is that we are trying to do something. Countries that don't do anything about addictions, they lose close to, on average, 6% of their GDP. 6 to 8%. That is a science that has been done, mathematics, and we have not even studied our own cost of addictions. Most countries are doing that, calculating cost of addiction. And that's what our university should help also with this, calculating these costs. What are the costs, direct costs, indirect costs? How much do we pay eventually, even when we do nothing?
Yeah.
When we do nothing. When we do something, it is possible to save close to 3% of that. And 3% of our GDP in our country is close to about 800 billion. 3% or more of our GDP. That's what you stand to save if you input some measures. It is also a known fact now around the world that 1 shilling used in addiction prevention will save you about 100 shillings in treatment. Yeah? So how much? Another one would save about 10 in terms of people who go to actual addictions. A simple thing also to look at is people like me now. I would be dead long time ago if I hadn't gone to rehab. I'm a former heroin addict, lived in the streets for 3 years, came out with a number of diseases from the streets. If I hadn't been helped with, I remember for me it was at the time 15,000 a month, that is 45,000. If I hadn't been helped, you see, I would not be a parent now. I would not be contributing to the economy. I'm now, I fuel to come here.
Yeah.
And you're looking at a situation where you couldn't do that before.
Yes, we couldn't.
Well, Boniface, thank you. Thank you for the insights this morning. Asante sana, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
You're helping many. Boniface Ndirango is an addictions prevention and rehabilitation champion. We've been talking about addiction, the cost of addiction in this country, the challenges of addiction and rehabilitation in Kenya, and what we all need to know, how it's also correlated to our mental health. We know for a fact that mental health is a big challenge in this country. 50% of people who go to hospital have a mental health issue. That's a big number. Now, if we add now addiction into it as a way in which they express themselves, then we can see it's a big issue. Keep it here for more conversations. In the next hour, we talk about the laws governing our fire safety in the country. It's 8 a.m.